God damn it. I really want my Platinum Medal rating to mean something. I wasn't expecting any game that comes out this year to even come close to earning it. Not Fallout 4 or Metal Gear Solid 5 or anything, but then Undertale happened. And now I have to review it because I can't think about anything else. It's seriously getting in the way of other things, like the Xenoblade review. So, I'm reviewing Undertale. I'm just not happy about it. That's a lie. This game makes me super happy. Also, super sad. And a little bit scared sometimes. Fair warning, this review will contain spoilers, and while normally I don't think that's a big deal, you should definitely go into Undertale fresh. The game is $10, one playthrough will take you 5 hours, and right now, no contest, it's my frontrunner for Game of the Year, so play it. Now, on with the review. Undertale is a difficult game to describe in simple terms. I mean, the plot is simple enough. A young child wanders up a mountain and falls into a massive cave full of monsters banished from the surface world, but the genre of the game is a little tricky to nail down. It's a JRPG with bullet hell combat where you can either kill or befriend any enemy you encounter. It's a dating sim, you can never really win, but that's okay because having friends is great too and you're on a date with a skeleton. It's a meta-commentary on the nature of choice in gaming, but then what art game these days isn't. Undertale juggles a lot of ideas very deftly and takes clear influence from a lot of different games, but the most prominent inspiration is clearly the Earthbound series, particularly Mother 3, and if you've played Mother 3, then that makes describing it a lot simpler. Undertale is a beautifully written RPG where every boss fight carries the same emotional weight as Mother 3's climactic final encounter with the masked man. I mean, not every boss is gonna make you want to roll up in a ball and cry for an hour, but they will make you laugh and smile and cringe and feel the kind of things you feel when hanging out with your actual friends. For all the JRPGs that spout off about the power of friendship, this is the first one in a long time that's made me feel like the characters are my actual friends. At least, that's how it is when you do a Pacifist run, that is, when you play through the game without killing anyone. The game is totally different when you do a so-called Genocide Run. It practically becomes a horror game. Or so I hear. The thing is, and I think this is a testament to the power of Undertale's narrative, I can't actually bring myself to reset the game and kill everyone. When you achieve the true ending where everyone is happy, one of the characters literally begs you not to undo it, and right now I just can't. But that reminds me, one of the coolest things about Undertale is the way that it treats saving, loading, and otherwise controlling the game's data as your superpower. The final boss even turns it against you, and the way that this plot element is introduced is pretty mind-blowing in itself. Unless you die a lot early on, and you have to be pretty bad at the game to make that happen since it literally holds your hand through most of the first area, you probably won't catch on until the first boss fight with Toriel. The game basically tricks you into killing her the first time through with some clever misdirection, and since she's an extremely likable, friendly person, you'll probably feel pretty bad about that. When you reload to fix your mistake, she says,
"Wait, why are you looking at me like that? Like you've seen a ghost. Do you know something that I do not?"
And when you try to talk to her in the following battle, the description says, "You thought about telling Toriel you saw her die, but that's creepy." I was really excited to see that, thinking the game might be pulling some similar tricks to another one of my favorites, but it became a really powerful story beat after the encounter. Flowey, the game's primary antagonist, showed up after the fight to tell me he knew what I did.
"Don't act so cocky, you murdered her! And then you went back because you regretted it."
This game does not let you get away with anything. That's especially true on a Genocide Run. I watched a video of a Genocide playthrough for this review, and Flowey even called me a sicko for watching it happen in the first place. The developers create dialogue hooks to check for recording software just to fuck with people watching Let's Plays. That's attention to detail. Most games get harder as they go along, but not like Undertale in a Genocide Run. As you get closer to its conclusion, the game does everything it can not just to challenge you, but to make you actively want to stop playing. For starters, the random encounter rate drops with each successive enemy you kill, which makes sense, you're looking for the few remaining survivors in an area, to the point that finding the last few in each area becomes an exercise in frustration. Sans warns you early on that if you continue killing everyone, you're gonna have a bad time, and he is not kidding. Undyne becomes insanely tough in order to stop you, and when Sans takes you on at the very end, he literally cheats in order to beat you. And the really sad thing is, he knows he can't, because you can just reset continuously until you beat him, so he pleads directly with you as the player to stop. And as he does so, he really digs to the heart of why most people would go for the bad ending of a game in the first place. They have to, because they can. It's a point that Flowey echoes, although he also says that he was lying to himself when he thought it, and it really gave me pause, because I've done things in games that I find distasteful simply because I wanted to feel like I'd completed the games fully. Undertale makes it possible to kill everyone, but it does so to make pacifism a meaningful choice. Undertale doesn't want you to do a genocide run. It wants you to stop, and if you don't, you can get dunked on! Unlike so many other games predicated on moral choice, Undertale makes you feel like your actions really matter, and not just the fake in-game ones. By constantly breaking the fourth wall and calling attention to the fact that it's a game, Undertale prompts you to consider its world and characters as they relate to you, not your avatar, and that makes them feel real. Obviously, they're characters. They don't exist, but they also kind of do. They exist in your memories of how the game made you feel, and on your hard drive with their happy ending intact, and in that context it feels cruel to the game and yourself to even reset it for another playthrough, let alone
kill everyone.
Toward the end, the Genocide Run gets really interesting and clever, but it also becomes the very antithesis of fun to play through. In order to complete it, you have to really want it, and Undertale doesn't let you distance yourself from that decision after the fact. In the Genocide ending, Undertale's entire world is erased, and in order to get it back and replay, the game asks you to sell your soul. Doing so means you forever carry with you the spirit of cruelty that brought you to the Genocide ending, and that irrevocably changes the game's true ending. Instead of escaping the underground with all your new friends, you become a sociopath who uses them to break free and wreak havoc in the human world. You don't get a happy ending. Ever. There are some things you just can't come back from. Unless you fiddle with your save file. That might actually be one of the harshest punishments in a video game, because Undertale's untainted pacifist ending is so goddamn satisfying and touching. Unlike a lot of other games about games, Undertale has a lot of thematic depth beyond its meta-commentary that lends it a powerful emotional resonance. Its script touches on fundamental aspects of what it means to be human and the tough but worthwhile struggle of understanding others and being understood. I know that sounds hokey, but Undertale really struck a chord with me, and I think it did the same for a lot of other people. The idea of understanding isn't just explored in the script, but the game's mercy mechanics as well. I'm sure we've all played at least one game where the non-violent route feels like a chore, nothing but running and hiding in lieu of actually interacting with the mechanics that make the game fun. Don't get me wrong, I adore a good stealth game, but even more than jumping in a precision platformer, stealth gameplay needs to be tight and polished. When it's not, you just end up feeling like you're holding yourself back from having a good time with the more robust, lethal systems. In Undertale, you don't avoid enemies though, you befriend them, which requires an intricate system of verbal and non-violent confrontation options. You can't just hit talk and answer a semi-random question like you do to contract demons in Shin Megami Tensei. You have to figure out a specific way to act in order to defuse the situation. Part of what makes this work is that the meat of the gameplay, the bullet hell avoidance segments, is defensive rather than an offensive mechanic, so even if you're trying not to fight, you still have to contend with these tense Twitch gameplay challenges every turn. In a lot of ways, the defense mechanics are made harder and more engaging in a pacifist run. Since you never kill anyone, you never gain any levels, an idea taken straight from the Megaten series, and you're stuck at 20 health for the entire game. It's an ingenious way of creating a perfect difficulty curve for the run, and it also reinforces the idea that true pacifism is a choice that requires conviction. The neutral run is inherently easier than either genocide or pacifism, and it's very tempting to kill a few enemies in order to improve your stats. Trying to understand what each enemy wants you to do also presents a genuinely interesting puzzle element that's honestly a bit more interesting than than the timing-based attack system used to kill them. Regular enemies are mostly archetypal and thus easy to understand. Play off the Tsundere Plains' hidden affections, or give the Snowdrake's crappy ice puns a pity laugh to spare them, for example. These interactions have enough to them to be interesting without feeling like a hindrance when repeated, which is a good balance for a game with random encounters to strike. Mini-bosses have more personality and require marginally more complex patterns as a result. You have to encourage the depressed ghost Napstabloot, play with the greater dog multiple times to tucker him out, and prove to the spider Muffet that you're not a cheapskate in order to end their respective battles peacefully. The most interesting aspect is how the game handles its main bosses. Not only do they get progressively stronger with more complicated attack patterns and greater damage output, they also put up increasingly difficult to breach emotional barriers. These range from Undyne's stubborn refusal to back down to Alphys's ingrained belief that she's not lovable, which leads her to put on her show with Metaton. You have to really understand each character to figure out how to break through to them, or in Undyne's case, to figure out that you need to run away until she's had a chance to calm down, but thankfully the game gives you plenty of time and motivation to do just that. Unfortunately, I can't upload videos longer than 15 minutes right now on account of the copyright strike on my summer recap video, so if you want to see part 2 of this, click anywhere on the screen, or the top right corner if you're on a mobile device to click the card, or just down in the doobly-doo, and you'll be able to go over to the next thing. I am just going to stall for time by making elevator music with my mouth now. Do 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 do